Are we progressing well? It will be really nice if you, I know you're all involved in very important work only. It would be nice if we can really find some time to read this and the pages. So if you have any doubts anywhere, it would be nice for me to clarify that. Baby hasn't yet come. Ishvara baby hasn't yet come. Om Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Om Sada Shiva Samarambham Vyasa Shankara Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Pada Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Om Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad-vyapta dehaya Dakshinamurtaye namaha Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Om Shanno Mitrasham Varunaha Shanno Bhavatvariyama Shanna Indro Brihaspatihi Shanno Vishnururukramaha Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayo Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahma Vadishyami Ritam Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tanmamavatu Tadvaktaramavatu Avatu Mam Avatu Vaktaram Om Shanti 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 Om Yaschandasam Rishabho Vishwarupaha छन्दोभ्योऽध्यमृतात् सम्बभूव समेन्द्रो मेधया स्पृणोतु अमृतस्य देवधारणो भूयासं शरीरं मे विचर्षणं जिह्वा मे मधुमत्तमा कर्णाभ्यां भूरिविश्रुवं ब्रह्मणः कोशोऽसि मेधया पिहितः श्रुतं मे गोपाय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः अहं वृक्षस्य रेरिव पृष्ठं गिरेरिव ऊर्ध्वपवित्रो वाजिनीव स्वमृतमस्मि द्रविणगुं सवर्चसं सुमेधा अमृतोक्षितः इति त्रिशङ्कोर्वेदानुवचनम् ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ अच्युताय नमः ॐ अनन्ताय नमः ॐ गोविन्दाय नमः Sri Rama Navami is going to come very soon. Is there any small celebration, Swamiji, here? Can make the whole place filled with Ramanama. In fact, let me tell you, Ramaha, in Sanskrit we call it Akaranta Pullinga Shabda. So nominative case becomes Ramaha. It is Ramaha. So the word Ramaha has been derived from the root Ram. Ram means to revel, to delight. So Ramaha itself means the one who revels in one's own self. Swasmin ramate iti Ramaha. Yasmin sarvani bhutani ramante iti Ramaha. The one who revels in oneself, one who delights in one's own self is Ramaha. Which actually it means meaning another word for Atma only. Like Krishna. Krishna means all attractive. Akarshati. That what is which attracts all the minds uniformly, the whole Jagat. Now Krishna is Corona. That which attracts grabs the attention of the whole Jagat always is what? Krishna. All attractive, absolutely, totally all attractive is happiness, fullness, ananda. And that which is of the nature, that which attracts all the minds towards itself is ananda. And Krishna is a name given to Ananda. So Krishna is a personification of Ananda, which attracts all the minds. So Rama means one who revels in oneself. That's why this mantra, when you chant, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, if you say, this is called Kali Santarana Upanishad. And only two names. Say Kali Yuge, in this age of Kali, Santaranam means crossing. So the knowledge which helps you overcome, which helps you cross this Kali Yuga. That is it. That mantra is said to be Kali Santarana Upanishad. And both the words are a nominative, vocative case. No, in calling, addressing. Hare, Harihi, nominative. When you call Hare, Hari is not vocative, nominative. In vocative case, Hare. Also Krishna, in vocative case, Krishna. So, when a word is uttered to call somebody, Puja Swamiji used to say this. Suppose in India, of course, I don't know how things are in Israel. In India, in the mornings you can see the milk person will be going, and whichever vendor will be going, and then the paper fellow comes in the morning, newspaper, he puts for every house, door to door. A lot of people will be coming and going on the street early morning, available for people to buy. Suppose some vendor is going, we don't know the name. So you don't need to call him by the name. How do you know who it is? We have to call him by that, oh vegetable vendor, oh milk wala, oh paper wala. You call him and the person listens. He knows the meaning of the expression milk wala, paper wala, vegetable vendor. He knows. And he has come purposely for what? The very word you call him, that reveals the purpose of inviting, calling. And he comes back and gives you what you want to buy vegetable, gives you vegetable. You want to buy milk, milk gives milk. You want paper, gives paper and goes back. Like that, any word meaningfully expressed, invoked. Even the local vegetable vendor responds when you call him vegetable vendor. Now we go to markets, generally I'm saying. So when you call Bhagavan also, hey Hare, and Harihi means what? One who takes away all your papams. Papani harati dukkham harati iti Harihi. Lord Shiva is also known as Haraha because he also removed of dukkham and suffering and papams. So when you call Hare, Bhagavan was, or remover of sins, he has to come and remove. Krishna, one who revels in, one who is of the nature of fullness, has to come. Okay, share my Ananda, has to give. Hey Rama, and he should help you revel in yourself. This is okay. Just Hare Rama. Which means Nama Ucharanam is not a waste of time. Especially meaningful names of Bhagavan. The meaning of the word should serve its meaning, the purpose of the meaning, isn't it? When it is expressed, uttered. Again, Ucharanam, even uttering, is an action, karma. That's why we must be very careful also. Anything once uttered, whether you meant it, you did not mean it, it is a karma. It will produce effect. So thoughtfully, intensely, when you utter these names, imagine the phalam. Okay. Today, we are seeing the 8th Anuvakaha. And here, in this 8th Anuvakaha, until now, we have seen Samhitopasanam, afterwards Vyahrityatmaka, Hiranyagarbhopasanam, then Antarhridaya Hiranyagarbhopasanam. Now also, we have seen Pankta Brahma. Pankta Hiranyagarbhopasanam. We have seen many upasanams. In all of them, the different meditations, but Hiranyagarbha is the main object of meditation. Hiranyagarbha means, you must understand, who represents the manifestation of knowledge in all the minds. Therefore, all the minds and all the intellects and all the pranas, all the powers, the entire subtle. The entire subtle, which also lends life for the gross. So Hiranyagarbha stands for Ishvaraha. You know that. Now again here, Omkaraha, in this section, 8th section, discusses Omkara Upasanam. Even though we say meditation upon Omkaraha is actually prescribed here, in the whole section nowhere there is no any discussion of how to practice meditation upon Omkaraha or what is Omkaraha. Nothing is discussed about Omkaraha here. It only, this section only presents the glory of Omkaraha. How glorious Omkaraha is mentioned in this section. So whenever a glory of something is presented, the adorability is mentioned, what it implies is then such an adorable, glorious thing deserves meditation, meditating. That thing can be taken for meditation. We can pay attention to that because it is glorious. So, always in the portions dealing with this meditations, the object of meditation is always glorified. So here also Omkara Mahima is just given here. We have already seen the meanings. The whole section we have seen. Nothing much is here, but still we will see. And so before going there, let me briefly remind you all these things. So Omkaraha originally was not written. You all know that. The Om which we write now is only later on, much later developed. Originally, Omkaraha was not written form. It's only a sound form. Om, a sound form. And in this sound, I won't remind you because nothing much to understand here. Let me tell you. This Omkaraha as a sound symbol is a monosyllabic expression consisting of 3 sounds: Akaraha, Ukaraha, Makaraha. This Omkaraha can be a symbol for Sagunam Brahma Ishvaraha and Nirgunam Brahma. It can be an alambanam for both Sagunam Brahma and Nirgunam Brahma. To understand Nirgunam Brahma also, Omkara can be used as a means of arriving at the truth. And to meditate upon Sagunam Brahma also is Omkara is used. And Karanam Brahma, Omkara can be used. Omkara also symbolizes Karanam Brahma Ishvaraha. Omkara also represents Karyam Brahma Hiranyagarbha. So Omkara is a symbol for Karanam Brahma Ishvaraha, Antaryameshvaraha. Omkara is a symbol for Karyam Brahma Hiranyagarbha. Omkara symbolizes Nirgunam Brahma, Param Brahma. Omkara symbolizes Sagunam Brahma, Ishvaraha. And no mantra begins without the utterance of Omkara because of its auspicious nature. And Omkara is the one sound which pervades all the sounds. All the sounds, no sound of any language, of any region exists outside of Omkara. Omkara by itself does not belong to any specific language. Just the sound. How do we say this? All the sounds are within Om. Because Akara is a guttural sound, Makara is a labial sound. When you open your mouth, A comes. When you close your mouth, comes. between a and having this ukara in between, all the vowels and consonants of all the languages are here. There's no sound is produced anywhere else outside of this region. So all the vowels and all the consonants of any language are within this akara, ukara, makara, within this part. Therefore, we say, what is this universe? What is this cosmos? This entire cosmos is constituted of innumerable, countless forms. Innumerable, countless objects constitute this entire objective universe, including one's own body, mind, sense complex. This is the definition of the word Vishwam, universe. What is Vishwam? Vishwam, vividhaihi pratyayaihi gamyam, Vishwam. So that which is constituted of, formed of, innumerable, countless forms, objects is Vishwam. And every form in this universe is dependent on the corresponding word for its existence. Every form, every object obtaining in any form, any object obtaining in any form is dependent on the corresponding word for its existence. No form can exist independently without the corresponding word which denotes that object. There is no word for a given object means that object does not exist. That object is as good as non-existent. Every object, subtle or gross, visible or invisible, obtaining in any form must have a corresponding word. Only then that object can have the status of being existent. And every word is also light. Every word is a light. Why every word is a light? Light is not a word, but any word. But any word is as good as a light. Just as light brings objects to light, word also brings a given object to light. That is why the word padam means padyate anena iti padam. That by which something is arrived at is called padam. In Sanskrit language, why word is called padam? Padyate anena iti padam. That by which something is arrived at. Suppose if I say chair or table, key, immediately your mind is able to relate to that object, isn't it? Hearing the word, you see the meaning of the word, which means word helps you arrive at the object. Therefore, word itself is called padam, that by which something is, a given object is arrived at. Padam. Therefore, all the objects in the world which are forms, obtaining in any form is dependent on its corresponding word for its existence. A wordless form will be as good as non-existent. Wordless object. Everything must have a word, and which happens to be a name. And any given object must be denoted by a corresponding word which happens to be the name also. For all the names or all the words, so forms are dependent on words, names for their existence, and the words are expressions of manifestation of knowledge. Word cannot be, if expressed, unless there is manifestation of knowledge. Is it clear? And manifestation of knowledge is not possible if there is no source of manifestation. Therefore, a form is a word. Word is manifest knowledge. Manifest knowledge is source of knowledge, manifestation. Therefore, form is knowledge, source of knowledge. Is it clear? Therefore, the whole universe can be reduced to objects obtaining in innumerable countless forms. All those forms are denoted by their corresponding words, and those words are expressions of manifestations of knowledge, and all the manifestations of knowledge are from the only source of knowledge. Therefore, A is equal to B, B is equal to C, C is equal to D, A is equal to D. Isn't it? Therefore, the whole world is knowledge. So here we say this, there were all the words, all the objects are denoted by their words. The words are nothing but combinations of letters. Letters combined in proper order form the words, and the letters are sounds, and all those sounds are in Om. Therefore, all the forms and the denoting words do not exist outside of Om. Therefore, the whole universe is Om, pervaded by Om. That is why if Brahman pervades everything, all the forms, the reality, Ishvaraha pervades all the forms, and Om pervades all the words. Therefore, Om is the name of the Lord who pervades everything. It's a very important thing. Word is not dependent on form for its existence, whereas form is definitely dependent on object. Obtaining in any form is dependent on word for its existence. If a form is not there, there's no word. That's a different thing. There's no word. That's a different thing. Form can become meaningless, but the word can become meaningless. The form goes, but the form definitely cannot enjoy existence independently without a word. Is it clear? Okay. This is one meaning of the word Om. Very important to know. And here, we already know very well, as explained in Mandukya Upanishad, where Omkara is specifically taken for unfoldment. There you understand Omkara is how Omkara is an alambanam for Ishvaraha, Hiranyagarbha. At the same time, Omkara is also taken for Nirguna Brahma Dhyanam. How is it? So you all know very well, whatever is here, whatever enjoys existence, when you say universe, the cosmos, it's only based on experience. What is universe? What is experienced is universe. What is experienced is the world. So, all the possible experiences are taken for analysis. So, in any experience involves definitely two important factors, experiencer and the experienced. And because of the presence of the experiencer, experience of the world is possible. And the world also enjoys the status of being the experienced. So we call it Jnatru Jnana Jnaya Sambandha. Jnatru Jnana Jnaya Sambandha. So this is called Jnatru Jnana Jnaya Triputi Bhedaha. Knower, known, knower, knowledge, known, difference. In fact, all the three are Om. All the three are Om. Because all the three are Ishvara, Bhagavan. So here we say that's why the one sound akaraha, which is so akaraha you hear when mouth is open. The mouth is opened, the sound heard is akaraha. To say anything when you open the mouth, A will come first because the guttural sound. That is why akaraha is specifically taken as an alambanam for Vishwaha and Virat. Now you know very well these two names, Vishwaha and Virat, are the technical expressions meaning the experiencer obtaining in the waking state is Vishwaha. The experienced world obtaining in the waking state is Virat. And there we do not see the world as an inert matter. The world also is seen as manifestation of knowledge, Bhagavan. Therefore the name given is Virat. And this Vishwaha and Virat together form what? Stand for Akaraha, which is Ishvara, which is manifestation of knowledge. Who is this experiencer? Experiencer obtaining in the waking state also is another than pure consciousness, and who is given the experiencer status and the jiva status because of the association with the upadhis in the waking state, body, mind, sense complex. So jivaha, the manifestation of knowledge, unidentified with the body, mind, sense complex, is pure consciousness. Identified with the body, mind, sense complex alone gets the jiva, the qualification, jivaha. Therefore, experiencer qualification also given, attributed, and given the name Vishwaha. Therefore, and what about the Virat? Virat is also knowledge, the objects of knowledge. Every object of knowledge also is manifestation of knowledge. Like every opaque thing is a reflection of light. Every object in this world, anything known, experienced, is of the inertness. The inert object is what? Manifestation of knowledge. Therefore, Virat, Ishvaraha, Bhagavan. And what about the experience? Experience also is a swarupam of the Lord. Therefore, Jnata is none other than the Lord. Jnanam and none other than the Lord. Known is also none other than the Lord. The standpoint of Atma, the consciousness, Jnatru Jnana Jnaya Triputi Bhedaha is not there. This knower, known, knowledge, division is not there from the standpoint of the Atma. All the three are Atma. All the three are Bhagavan. That is why Akaraha stands for that experience. Okay, the knower, known knowledge obtaining in the waking state. Vishwaha and Virat. And Ukaraha, that's why in one letter, the whole Jagat, the waker and the waker's world are loaded in one sound A. Similarly, because nothing much here for this session, so I'm explaining those things. Now we take this Ukaraha, the middle sound also stands for the knower, same experiencer, same knower. of the subtle manifestation, subtle universe. Because the subtle aspects are also objects of knowledge. Not only the sensorily perceptible gross universe, sensorily imperceptible subtle matter also is object of knowledge. Not only sensorily perceptible gross forms, gross world, sensorily imperceptible subtle matter, subtle aspects are also objects of knowledge. Therefore, they are also of the nature of inertness. And that all known means there is a knower experiencer. And that knower experiencer obtaining, no experiencer of the subtle universe, subtle matter also is the same Atma. And the known subtle matter also is manifestation of knowledge. Therefore, Ishvaraha Bhagavan. How quickly we convert the gross matter into Ishvara. Just appreciating the fact of everything being manifestation of knowledge. Otherwise, the matter will disappear. Matter has no existence at all outside of the consciousness, outside of knowledge. They look at everything gross as manifestation of knowledge and resolve the gross or subtle matter as mithya and see only what is only jnanam. It's another way of appreciating this, another fact. Therefore, then also give two different qualifications are attributed to the same Atma, same reality, Brahma, as what? Taijasaha and Hiranyagarbha. The subtle material manifestation is not looked upon as a material matter. It is seen as the manifestation of knowledge again. Because subtle matter also does not exist outside of the knowledge. Therefore, it is when you look at the subtle inert matter as manifestation of knowledge, then given the Ishvara status as what? Hiranyagarbha. And the experiencer is given the title as what? Taijasaha. So, Taijasaha and Hiranyagarbha. Therefore, experiencer, experience and experienced universe in subtle form also is Atma, which is symbolized by Ukaraha. Then, everything becomes unmanifest also. Subtle, when the subtle universe also is not available for experience, gross universe also is not available for experience. Subtle and gross matter, okay, subtle manifestation and gross manifestation, everything remains resolved. When everything remains resolved, everything is unknown. When the subtle universe, thereby the gross universe remain unknown, it is as good as non-existent. Even though universe is not destroyed, it is not created and destroyed, but the universe, when it is unknown, subtle as well as gross universe is unknown, is as good as non-existent. But still, it is not non-existent, it is as good as non-existent because it is not experienced, neither the subtle nor the gross. What happened? Then you call it unmanifest universe, which the universe which is existent but still not available for enjoyment and experience is said to be unmanifest universe. Avyakta prapanchaha. Sukshma prapanchaha is a vyakta prapanchaha, manifest. Sthula prapanchaha is vyakta prapanchaha, manifest. Sthula means gross universe. Avyakta prapanchaha means what? Unmanifest. What happened to subtle universe, subtle matter? what happens to the gross matter. Everything is existent, but they remain unmanifest. It's unmanifest, it's unknown, it is not available for enjoyment. Experience means it is as good as non-existent. Why? Because the power of reality in terms of knowing remains resolved. Power of reality is resolved. Therefore, what? There is no manifestation of knowledge. Is it clear? When the power of reality remains unmanifest, when I say power of reality is unmanifest, means what? There is no manifestation of knowledge. There is no manifestation of knowledge. When the thoughts are resolved, mind is non-functional, there is no manifestation of knowledge. Therefore, no experience is possible, no perception is possible, no objectification is possible. Therefore, the world remains unmanifest. Is it clear? Now, also, the unmanifest universe being unmanifest also is experienced. Unmanifest universe also is experienced. They are also an experiencer of the unmanifest universe. The universe being unmanifest also is experienced. There is an experiencer of the unmanifest universe also. Therefore, we say to understand that what happens at the Mahapralaya when the whole universe becomes unmanifest, we can never understand Maya. That is why always we have to understand through the model of your sleep state. In deep sleep state, when all the thoughts resolve, mind is non-functional, manifestation of knowledge is not possible, therefore perception is not possible, all the powers are non-functional, the whole universe remains unmanifest. Not being available for objectification, perception, enjoyment, experience is said to be what? Being unmanifest. Unmanifest universe is called what? Avyakta prapanchaha is said to be Karana prapanchaha, causal universe. Don't think it's a cause somewhere sitting. Causal universe is nothing but unmanifest universe. Why it's called causal universe? The unmanifest universe again becomes manifest. Therefore, from the unmanifest alone, the universe becomes manifest. So, the becoming manifest is looked upon as creation. The manifest becoming unmanifest is looked upon as dissolution. Deluge, is it clear? Therefore, unmanifest universe is said to be Karana Prapanchaha, causal universe. And Karana, so the Suksha Prapanchaha is Karya Prapanchaha, Sthula Prapanchaha is Karya Prapanchaha, effect. And Karana Prapanchaha, unmanifest universe, is Karana Prapanchaha, causal universe. That causal universe also does not exist outside of the knowledge. Why? Because it is known. Anything known is manifestation of knowledge. Is it clear? Illumined opaque thing is reflection of light. Similarly, known, manifest or unmanifest universe is manifestation of knowledge. Unknown universe also is what? Manifestation of knowledge. It's very difficult, subtle point I'm telling you. Known universe is known because manifestation of knowledge. Unknown, the subtle universe is known, therefore it is manifestation of knowledge. Unmanifest universe also is known. you can ask me the question, how do you say the unknown universe, unmanifest universe is manifestation of knowledge? Unmanifest universe also is known. The universe being unmanifest is known. The universe being unknown is known. Got the point? The universe being unknown is known. The universe being unmanifest is known. Therefore, the unmanifest, unknown universe being known, it is also looked upon as manifestation of knowledge. Then what should the name we should give? Ishvaraha. Antaryamishvaraha. Why do you say Antaryamishvaraha? The one in whom everything remains resolved. The unknown universe being known remains resolved in, remains unknown. Okay? The unknown universe, unmanifest universe, being unmanifest, being unknown, okay, remains in knowledge. Then only you can call it Ishvara. Got it? Ishvaraha, Antaryamishvaraha. And this, then you give a different name. Antaryamishvaraha. The unknown, unmanifest, unexperienceable universe also is known. Therefore, it is manifestation of knowledge. Therefore, you give a name Antaryamishvaraha. And the experiencer, because of whose presence the universe being unknown is known, the universe being unmanifest is known, that knower is Prajnaha. So Prajnaha and Antaryamishvaraha, the knower and the known. Knower and the known unknown world. Let me put it that way. The knower and the known unmanifest world. Is it clear? It's also, what now? Together is said to be Tritiya Padaha of the Atma, which is loaded, symbolized by Makaraha. That's why when you close the mouth after speaking, is Sagunam Brahma. Omkara is a symbol of Sagunam Brahma. Now how Nirgunam Brahma? And Makaraha is followed by, so Akara, Ukara, Makara, three matras. Trimatra Shabdaha, Omkaraha. Okay? Because the three sounds are there. And the following, Makara is followed by, after closing your mouth, there is silence. Om. Silence following Makaraha is never taken into account. We have to really remember. Silence following the Makaraha is said to be Amatraha. Nishabdaha, isn't it? Nishabda means what now? There's no sound. Silence. So sound is under silence. Sound is followed by what? All these sounds resolve silence. So silence is not absence. Silence is not absence. That silence symbolizes pure existence. And the pure existence also is what? Pure consciousness. What is a pure existence? Because no nama rupa karma rahitam Brahma. Pure existence, consciousness. Because consciousness existence is of the nature of silence. Consciousness does not speak, does not make any noise, does not think, does not see, does not do anything. But without consciousness, no seeing, no hearing, no smelling, no action, nothing is possible. Therefore, we attribute the qualifications to attributeless Atma, the consciousness, as knower, hearer, doer, etc. Is it clear? Therefore, Omkara is Saguna. Omkara is a word, name of the Lord. Unique name of the Lord. A unique expression which denotes all the words. All the words. So any word can be replaced by Om. This is the basis. Okay. With this understanding, let us get into it, because nothing much here. That's why I want to say those important lessons today. This is what in Mandukya Upanishad, what they say, Prathama Padaha of Atma. No, Vishwaha and Virat form the Prathama Pada of the Atma, which is symbolized by Akaraha. Then Dvitiya Pada of the Atma, symbolized by Ukaraha, which is knower and the known in the of the subtle universe, and the knower and the known of the unmanifest universe. The knower of the unmanifest and the knower known unmanifest universe is what symbol is said to be symbolized by Makaraha, which forms the Tritiya Pada of the Atma. And what about the Turiyaha, fourth Padaha? That is why it's very important to remind you here. Turiyaha means Chaturtaha. Chaturtaha means the fourth. The fourth person. What does it mean? We should never, it's very wrong to say, I'm waiting for the Turiya experience. Turiya can never be experienced. Okay? There are only 3 states of experience, and Atma as pure consciousness, the symbolized by Amatraha, silence, is said to be Turiyaha. Why Turiyaha? Fourth person. The only reality, the pure consciousness existence alone is there as the experiencer, only experiencer obtaining in 3 different states of experience. The knower experiencer of the waking universe, the knower experiencer of the subtle universe, the knower experiencer of the unmanifest universe is one and the same. This Atma alone is like the fourth person, is there in 3 states of experience. The only consciousness existence implied by the term Atma, which is of the nature of knowing alone, is there like the fourth person. It's very important, like the fourth person in all 3 states of experiences. Therefore, Atma is known by the expression Turiyaha. So Turiyaha means pure consciousness existence implied by the term Atma, which alone pervades the unmanifest universe, which alone pervades the subtle manifestation, which alone pervades the gross manifestation, which means whether the universe is it's a gross manifestation, subtle manifestation, unmanifest, the universe does not have existence at all independently outside of the knowledge. Therefore, the whole universe, unknown or known, is nothing but jnanam, knowledge. Which is the Swarupam of the Atma. Sarvam Brahmaiva. That's why occasionally what? Sarvam Omkaraha. Om alone. In the form of Om, which is the source of which is pure knowledge, alone is there, pervades the entire world in the form of the names of all the objects. That is why it is appropriate to say Om is Abhidhanam, Bhagavan is Abhideyaha. The Lord, who is in the form of, who alone is in the form of all the forms which constitute the universe, is the meaning of the word Om. Okay, now we'll quickly see this. Omiti Brahma, Omiti Brahma, Omitidagam Sarvam, Omitidagam Sarvam, Omityetadanukriti Hasmava, Omityetadanukriti Hasmava, Apyo Shravayetya Apyo Shravayetya Omite Samani Gayanti, Omite Samani Gayanti, Ogum Shomiti Shastrani Shagum Santi, Ogum Shomiti Shastrani Shagum Santi, Omityadvaryuh Pratigaram Pratigrinati, Omityadvaryuh Pratigaram Pratigrinati, Omiti Brahma Prasauti, Ti Brahma Prasauti, Omityagnihotramanujānati, 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 Omiti Brahmanah Pravakshannaha, Omiti Brahmanah Pravakshannaha, Pravakshannaha, Vakshannaha, Brahmopa Apnavaniti, Brahmopa Apnavaniti, Brahmaivopa Apnoti, Brahmaivopa Apnoti. So here first it says Omite Brahma. So here Omkaraha is Brahma. Omkara is Brahma means what? Here Omkaraha is specifically taken as an alambanam for Hiranyagarbha. Om iti Brahma. Hiranyagarbha alone is symbolized by Omkaraha here. Om iti Brahma. Why? Because now we are the discussion, the topic under discussion is what? Om, meditation. And meditation is upon what? Ishvaraha. Ishvara is here who? Hiranyagarbha. Therefore here Om is taken as an alambanam for Hiranyagarbha upasanam. So Om is Brahma. Om is equal to Brahma. Ishvara. Because Om is Abhidhanam, Hiranyagarbha is Abhideyaha. The meaning. Om is a word, Bhagavan is the meaning. Now, Omitidagam Sarvam. Omitidagam Sarvam. So, idam sarvam. Idagam is what? Gum, Vedic expression, Vedic sound. Just we only for chanting we use it. Otherwise, idam. Idam is a third person singular pronoun which means this. Idam sarvam om. Means what? all this that is here is Om. All that is here is the Lord. All that is here is Bhagavan. All that is here is Om. Okay. Now already we see the meanings. Okay, I explained to you already. Now we can move ahead. Now he says, because all that is here is Om, because all that is here is Bhagavan and Omkaraha. So, therefore, Om is an auspicious utterance. The two expressions, Atha and Om, are two auspicious utterances. Therefore, here it is said, Om ityetadanukruti smava apyosha vayetyasha vayanti. So he says, Anukritihi. I wanted to know the meaning of the word Anukritihi. Anukritihi means permission. Om iti etad Anukritihi, which means in performing, while when priests are performing rituals, and when they have to talk to each other in between, if one person has to ask for permission, other person has to give permission, express his consent, and Omkaraha is used as an expression of consent or permission. Suppose if we go and ask Swamiji, it's okay for us to do something. Swamiji can say what? Om. Suppose he says no. Om. Anything can be said, but Om can be okay. So now I'm saying mostly for permission, Om iti Anukritihi. Then afterwards, Ha, Sma, Va, three expressions. The Ha, Sma, Va, they do not give any specific meaning. They only said the Om being very popular. Which mantra begins with without Omkara? Which ritual is begin with Omkara? Not only Vedic rituals and religious activities, even the mundane activities are begin with the Om. Okay, nothing is begin with the Om. It is very popular. The Ha, Sma, Va, etc. The Y indeed, etc. stand for this the Omkara being well known. Okay, then. Shravaya iti ashravayanti. Shravaya iti ashravayanti. See, Shravaya means may you chant the mantras, may you make us listen to the mantras when the instruction is given. When the instruction to recite the mantras is given, come on, chant. Shravaya. Then also they utter Om, just to say, come on, chant the mantras, make us listen to the mantras. Then Om is said. Iti ashravayanti. Om iti samani gayanti. Even sama. So here we can see any ritual, a big ritual is performed. Not a small ritual. A big ritual is performed means there will be priests of all four Vedas. All four Vedas will be there. And for each Veda there will be four priests. One will be a group leader. The rest of them will be the assistants like. So, and the group is called Ganaha. There will be four Ganas, four groups. So totally there will be 16 priests in a big ritual. So, the Rigveda Ganaha are called Hotru Ganaha. The main priest of Rigveda group is called Hota. Hota is a Rigveda priest. And actually what is his job? The main priest of the Rigveda group is Hota. He has to only invite the Devatas. His job is to invoke and invite the Devatas, when before perform the rituals. That is his job. He has to recite mantras, and those mantras are for invoking and inviting the Devatas. Hotru. So he will have his own assistants. So the total will be Hotru Ganaha, headed by the Hota, Rigveda chief priest. Then we have Yajurveda priest, also known as Adhvaryuhu. Adhvaryuhu is name of Yajurveda main priest, and he also has his own team of three other people, totally 3 people. And this Yajurveda priest is actually has a lot of work. He is the one who has to prepare the altar, set the altar, kindle the fire, offer oblations. So main important work is for the Yajurveda priest, who is known as Adhvaryuhu, and his team is Adhvaryu Ganaha. Then the Samaveda priest, actually Rigveda mantra set to tunes alone is said to be Samaveda, mostly. So he said the Samaveda people, for them their job is to sing in praise of Devatas, glorifying the Devatas, so that they take care of the guests. Okay, when guests come, you look out like that. The Devatas they invite. Rigvedis invite them. After coming, who take care? And this Yajurveda, this Samaveda priests, they glorify, sing in praise of the Devatas. So, again, singing should be taken literally as like Papa singing, like other music singing, because Swamiji says that there are all 7 musical notes are in Samaveda, but mostly 5, at least 5 you need to sing properly. There are only 4 notes are there. Therefore, it is some sort of singing. Okay, Samaganam. And they sing in praise of the Devatas' glorification. And he is known as Udgata. Udgata is the Samaveda main priest. And Udgatru Ganaha is also a group of Samavedis. Then the Atharva Veda priest, main priest is called Brahma. But the Atharvaveda priest does not have to do anything there, because Atharvaveda mantras are not used in performance of rituals. But what is his job then? He is supposed to be a Chaturvedi. He is supposed to know all 4 Vedas, but he doesn't do anything. His job is to supervise. He must know the rituals, what should be done, everything to instruct. As a supervisor, even though he is not doing anything himself, under his supervision, the whole ritual should take place. Therefore, if he has to supervise, means he must have all knowledge. So he is supposed to be Chaturvedi. He must know all 4 Vedas. He is called Brahma. And there is a group also, Brahma Ganaha. Okay, Atharva Veda priests. Like this, it will be totally 16 priests of 4 Vedas having their own heads will be involved. And every group has its own job, its own work there in the rituals. And all of them, when they communicate to each other, talk to each other in the Yajnashala, they use only Om as an expression of consent, expression of acceptance, expression of permission. This is what the main teaching here, nothing else. So, Omiti Samani Gayanti means Samaveda priests also sing their Samaveda mantras only after uttering Omkaraha. Afterwards, Ogum Shomiti Shastrani Shagum Santi. Shastrani means the Yajurveda priests, Rigveda priests. Shastram means Rigveda mantra. Shastrani Shagum Santi. Rigveda priest. Rigveda priests also, they say Om Shom. Shom also has what? Sham and Om together form this expression Shom. The Sham stands for auspiciousness. Therefore, Om also is an auspicious utterance. Therefore, they say Om, Ogum, Shomiti. They first say Om, then they say Shom. Then that's how they chant their mantras, begin their mantras. So, whether Rigvedi, whether Hota or Adhvaryuhu or Udgata or Brahma, all of them have to begin their mantras saying what? Om. Then Om iti Adhvaryuhu Pratigaram Pratigranati. He just mentions Adhvaryuhu is who? Again, Yajurveda priest also, he chants his mantra Pratigranati. He recites his mantra beginning with the word Pratigara means a mantra. No, saying Om, Om. afterwards, Om iti Brahma prasauti. Here Brahma does not that Brahma. Here Brahma means Atharvaveda priest. Brahma, Atharvaveda priest also prasauti. Prasauti means what? He gives permission. He says yes for some request, some approval. He says yes. Prasauti. Om iti prasauti. Om iti Agnihotram anujanati. Now, after having said that, Agnihotram is a daily ritual. I think I must have told you this already in the previous class. Agnihotram is the smallest of the Karmakanda rituals. The biggest of the rituals of Karmakanda is Ashwamedha Yaga. The tiniest of the Karmakanda rituals is Agnihotram. Now, Agnihotram is like Vedic, what we have now. Every day we light the lamp, offer arati. This is our substitute. What we are doing now is the substitute of Agnihotram. Agnihotram is a daily ritual. The Vaidikaha who begins his day with the worship of Devatas, Deva Yajna, who performs Deva Yajna, has to begin his day first worshipping the Lord in the form of performing an Agnihotram ritual. Especially he begins his ritual from the day of his marriage as a Grihastha. As a young person he begins. And that fire also he must have got from his father. And that fire he'll keep it alive for whole life. When the person dies, they take the fire from here to cremate that person also. This is the Agnihotram. We can talk so much about Agnihotram, but I don't want to say too much. So here, this Agnihotra performer also, he begins his Agnihotram ritual uttering Omkaraha, Om iti Agnihotram anujanati. Okay. Now, Om iti Brahmanaha pravakshan aha Brahma eva upapnavan iti. Okay, so the priest Anujanati means gives permission. So the performer of Agnihotram ritual asks for permission, and he is given permission how? By saying Om. Even to perform Agnihotram ritual, permission is taken in the form of Om. Then Brahmanaha means any person who wants to study Veda Shastram is called Brahmanaha here. So a person who wants to study Veda, and he also, what now? May I study the Veda Shastram. And he expresses his intention of wanting to study first uttering Om. Om. Let me study Veda. I want to study Veda. So one's intention of wanting to study Veda also is expressed first uttering Omkaraha. And one meaning. And thereby what happens? Brahma eva avapnoti. He does fulfill his wish of wanting to study Veda. Another meaning Shankaracharya writes, not only Brahma, if you take the Brahman as the reality, suppose a person who, the Jignasu Bhakta, Umukshu, I want to know Brahman. So if a person has intention, he expresses, may I know Brahman, let me know Brahman. The person having the intention or desire to know Brahman also, he begins his pursuit uttering Om, as a result of which definitely he also will get his wish, he does get his wish fulfilled. Brahma eva upapnoti. Upapnoti means what? Attains. This person definitely attains knowledge of Veda or attains knowledge of Brahman. You can take in two different meanings. Okay, that's all. The mantras are over. Now we'll see quickly the Bhashyam. It's a simple chapter. Okay. Now Shankaracharya, as usual, he introduces this topic in page number 221. You can read the English translation of it if you want to know the meaning. I'm going to read the Sanskritam. Vyahrityatmanaha brahmanaha upasanam uktam. He says, first we saw what? Which upasana we saw before this? Before coming to this Omkara glorification section, we first had this chapter, the section discussing the Vyahrityatmaka Hiranyagarbhopasanam was the topic of the previous section. Anantaram cha Pankta Swarupena. And later on in the immediately previous section, we saw the discussion on the meditation upon Pankta Swarupa Hiranyagarbha Hiranyagarbha. So Pankta Swarupa Hiranyagarbhopasanam was the topic of the previous section, which also we have seen. Idanim, now, after having seen these different upasanas in the previous sections, in terms of Yahrityatmaka Brahma Hiranyagarbhopasanam and Pankta Brahmopasanam, now we are seeing Idanim Sarva Upasana Angabhutasya Omkarasya Upasanam Vidhitsyate. Idanim, now Sarva Upasana Angabhutasya Omkarasya Upasanam Vidhitsyate. Now here in this section, meditation upon Hiranyagarbha, Upasanam Vidhitsyate. But how? Having Omkara as an object of meditation. This Omkara, Omkara is a part of all the meditations. There's no meditation which is involved with the practice without Omkara. So this Omkara, which is the Angam, which is the part of, which is necessarily a part of all the upasanams, is specifically taken here as an object of meditation, as an alambanam for Hiranyagarbha. Is it clear? That's all the meaning here. Means Upanishad here has the desire to teach the meditation upon Omkaraha, Hiranyagarbha Upasanam upon Omkaraha, which is a part of all the Upasanams. Sarva Upasana Angabhutaha Omkaraha. Omkaraha is part of all the meditations. There's no meditation which is practiced without the involving Omkaraha. Any mantra you chant, wherever Upasanam is instructed, any instruction of any meditation definitely has what? Omkaraha. And that Omkara is specifically taken as an alambanam for Hiranyagarbha here. Okay, next, page number 222. Para para brahma drishtya hi upasyamanaha omkaraha shabdamatraha api para para brahma prapti sadhanam bhavati. So, Shankaracharya writes here. What does he say? This Omkaraha, which is upasyamanaha, Omkaraha is meditated upon. As what? He, indeed, para apara brahma drishtya. Para Brahma means what? Param Brahma. Aparam Brahma Ishvara. It's okay? Para apara Brahma drishtyahi upasyamanaha Omkaraha. Omkaraha is being meditated upon. Omkaraha is meditated upon as Param Brahma and Aparam Brahma also. Which I already told you. I'm just reading out Shankara's commentary now. Shabdamatraha api parapara brahma prapti sadhanam bhavati. Even though Omkara is just a monosyllabic sound, even though Omkara is a single sound, single syllabic sound, still Omkara is a means of discovering Param Brahma, means of attaining even Hiranyagarbha. By practicing meditation upon Hiranyagarbha in the form of Omkaraha, one can have Hiranyagarbha, one can attain Hiranyagarbha status. By dwelling upon the meaning of Omkaraha, one can attain even the knowledge of Param Brahma. So, Omkaraha is a means of attainment of knowledge of the reality. Omkaraha is a means of attainment of Hiranyagarbha status. It is meant for, can be used for contemplation upon the nature of reality. It can be used as an object of meditation. Okay? Upasana sadhanam, jnana sadhanam. Okay? Saha hi alambanam brahmanaha parasya aparasya cha pratimaiva vishnoho. Shankaracharya makes it very clear. Saha Omkaraha, that Omkaraha is an alambanam, a symbol, support for brahmanaha parasya aparasya cha. Omkara is an alambanam for both Param Brahma and Aparam Brahma. Omkara is an alambanam for both Param Brahma and Aparam Brahma. Like what? Like Pratima iva Vishnoho. Just as Pratima, a Murti, a form. How a form, now you can have form here for Vishnu. How a form becomes a symbol for all pervasive Lord Vishnu. So also, because now we are using Pratima for Vishnu. This Omkaraha, the monosyllabic word itself, can be a symbol for both attributeless reality, symbol for arriving at the attributeless reality, and it can be a symbol for meditating upon Hiranyagarbha. Or you can say it can be a symbol for both Antaryameshwaraha and Hiranyagarbha. Okay, next. Page number 224. And here, Shankara Bhagavad-pada presents a quotation from the Prashna Upanishad. You must be familiar with that. You might have learned it already. Ye tene eva ayatanena ye tena eva ayatanena ekataram anveti. By using one Omkaraha as a symbol, one as a symbol, one can attain either of the two. Ekataram anveti. He's saying, I'm not simply telling, Upanishad is the proof. Shankaracharya is very conscious. Such a great Acharya. He says anything, he is a Shruti Smruti Purananam Alaya. He is an abode of embodiment of everything. But still when he says something, immediately he quotes a Vedic statement. I am not saying, Veda says. Okay, next. Page number 225. Om iti shabdaha swarupa paricheda arthaha. Om iti. In that mantra, Om iti Brahma, it begins like this. So there he says, the iti shabdaha swarupa paricheda arthaha. He just says, what is the purpose of using iti there? Iti says, iti is used for purpose of limiting Omkaraha to the word. Om, just take the Om as a sound here, as a word here. That's the meaning. And Om iti etat shabda rupam Brahma. No, so when he says, shabda rupam Brahma iti manasa dharayet yataha Om iti idam sarvam. So Shankaracharya is commenting upon the next word, Om iti Brahma. That word iti actually is used for the purpose of limiting Omkara to the word. And then Om iti etat shabda rupam Brahma iti manasa dharayet. when he says all the T series Om, when it said what he says, please remember Om is the sound form of Brahman. Please remember this in your mind. When Upanishad says all the T series Om, what Upanishad means is, please hold in your mind, remember in your mind that Om is the sound form of the Lord. Om is the sound form of the Lord, the whole. Therefore, Om, all the T series said to be Om. Yataha Om iti idam sarvam. Sarvam hi shabdaswarupam omkarena vyaptam. Sarvam hi shabdaswarupam omkarena vyaptam. Omkaraha pervades all the words. Omkaraha in the form of the sounds, all the vowels and consonants. Omkaraha in the form of sounds pervades all the sounds, all the words, all the sentences, all the forms, all the objects, all the functions. How? Again, Chandogya Upanishad statement is quoted, which you know very well. By repeatedly reading this, the Chandogya Upanishad quotation will become thorough in your mind. Tad yatha shankuna iti shrutyantarat. How does Omkara pervades all the words? Omkara is a swarupa of all the words. Omkara pervades all the words like what? Just as the leaves are pervaded by the membranes. If you remove the membranes, the leaf will disappear. The leaf is in and through pervaded by the membranes. Similarly, Omkara pervades all the objects. See, those days, sitting under the peepal tree, the gurus must have been teaching, you know, sitting under the trees only. And then the leaves is what peepal tree leaf. If you take the leaf, you can see how the membranes are pervading the leaf. Give a nice example. See, the actual explanation I've already done in the beginning of the class. That's why I'm just going ahead. Page number 226. Abhidhana tantram hi abhideyam iti ataha idam sarvam omkaraha ityuchyate. An important line. You must make a note of it. Abhidhana tantram hi abhideyam iti ataha iti. Ataha idam sarvam omkaraha ityuchyate. Now, all that is here is omkaraha. All this is omkaraha. How do you say this? How can we say this? Because Om is the Abhidhanam. Bhagavan, who is name of everything, is Abhideyaha. Because every object, any object, every object obtaining in any form is dependent on its corresponding word for its existence. You have to think about it. It's a very important lesson. Any object and every object obtaining in any form is dependent on its corresponding word for its existence. Form has no independent existence without the word. Suppose, imagine if I tell you, please, would you please get that? I'm showing something. I show something and I tell you, please, would you please get that? I must show something to say when I say, please get that. Even then I have to use the expression that, isn't it? If I simply say, please get, please get, please get, you'll ask me, what do you want me to get? Why? I must use a word. Isn't it true? Would you please get me a cup of water? Would you please get me the chair? Would you please if you want anything, I must express clearly what I want. How am I going to express without a word? You know something. No, I want something. What is something you want? Clearly word. Is it clear? A word alone, a form, any object obtaining in any form is dependent on its corresponding given word for its existence. And all the words are not outside of vowels and consonants. All the vowels and consonants are not outside of akara, ukara, makara. Om. Therefore, Om pervades all the sounds, all vowels and consonants. All vowels and consonants pervade all the words. All the words pervade all the forms. Therefore, Abhideyam, Abhidhana Tantram. Tantra means what? Dependent. A form is an object obtaining in any form is dependent on the word for its existence. That is why Bhagavan is the meaning, Om is the name. Abhidhanam. Abhidhanam, word. Abhideyaha, meaning. Word and its meaning. I can go out of the text, I can give you something. Word is intelligent cause, form is material cause. Okay, form is expression of the material cause, word is expression of intelligent cause. They are inseparable. And word is Shiva, form is Shakti. Vagarthaviva sampraktau vagartha pratipattaye. Vagarthaviva sampraktau. Parvati and Parameshwara are inseparable like the word and its meaning. Can you separate the word and its meaning? The meaning implies form and function. Word implies, is it clear? Word is expression of manifestation of knowledge. Form is the meaning of the word, denoted by the word. Is it clear now? Therefore, he says, how do you say, the question comes, idam sarvam onkaraha. There's nothing other than omkaraha here. Everything is om, 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 om. Everything is om. So now, this omkara utterance will be a mangala vachakam today, even for corona. Really, promise. All it is here is om. You can see every leaf, every tree, every grain of sand, every small thing, everything is omkaraha here. I'm happy to say, repeat it, even if you feel tired, it doesn't matter. I'll repeat. I like it. Because of fact, I see it. And I see how the Upanishad sees, how Bhagavan Shankara sees here. Sarvam, idam sarvam omkara eva. Is there anything other than omkara here? Tell me. If at all you say something else is there outside of the word, means that doesn't exist. That is as good as non-existent, even if it is existent. So many things which have yet to be discovered in the universe are also what? Now it is not there. It's as good as non-existent. It's unmanifest. I tell you a secret. Anything which is unknown comes under the category of, I love this Kenna Bashma, I did it. Anything unknown comes under the category of unmanifest. Just knowledge. Unknown is unmanifest. Unmanifest is also what? Power of reality knowledge. Anything known is what? Manifest knowledge. Anything known is manifestation of knowledge. Anything unknown is unmanifest knowledge. Therefore, unknown also, there is nothing called unknown which exists outside of the knowledge. Something being unknown is known. Is it clear? Therefore, idam sarvam omkaraha eva. How do you say? Because the whole all, the entire universe constituted of all the forms, names, and all the forms and functions are nothing but Bhagavan. And Bhagavan is the meaning of the word Om. How can you say God is one? How can you say gods are many? All that is here is only Bhagavan. That's why everything is equally revered. Everything deserves reverence. Okay. Therefore, Abhidhana Tantram hi Abhideyam iti ataha sarvam onkaraha ityuchyate. As the object is dependent on word, any object operating in any form is dependent on word for its existence, so the whole universe being Bhagavan, Abhideyaha, the meaning of the word Om, you can easily say what? Everything is Om. All that is here is Om. Okay, next page. Omkarastutyartham uttaraha grantaha upasyatvat. Now he says, Omkarastutyartham uttaraha grantaha. The text which is going to come now is for the purpose of glorifying Omkaraha. Omkarastutihi, glorification of Omkara. What is the purpose of the rest of the words here in the mantra? He says, from where? Omityetadanukrutiha smava onwards. Okay, first to leave the first two words are the mantras. Afterward, the third word onwards. Omityetadanukrutiha smava apyo shravayetya shravayenti. That mantra onwards, the rest of the text is for glorification of Omkaraha. Is it clear? See, the later text means what? The text after the second line. Second mantra. Idam sarvam onkaraha eva. After that, the whole text, the whole section presents only what? Glorification of Onkaraha. Why? Because it has to be meditated upon. Onkaraha is glorified because Onkara has to be taken as an alambanam for object of meditation. Omityetad anukritihi. He writes anukaranam karomi yasyami va iti kritam uktam. Omiti anukaroti anyaha. So one person asks for permission, another person says what? Okay, I give permission, I agree, I accept. The acceptance, consent, permission is expressed by the expression Om. Ataha Omkaraha Anukritihi. Om is used as an expression of permission. Ha smavai iti prasiddhartho. Prasiddhartha avadhyotakaha. Ha sma vai iti prasiddha artha avadhyotakaha. As I already said that ha, u, ha, sma, vai, etc. The vai sometimes means indeed. The ha, sma do not have any meanings. Then what are they here for then? Why does Upanishad use those expressions? Just to make us understand the Omkara is very well known. Because a Omkara is used in everything. In Karma Kanda, Omkara is used. Jnana Kanda, Omkara is used. Upasana Kanda, Omkara is used. No, in all rituals it is used. In Vedic Karma it is used. In even worldly activities also Omkara is used. There is no karma, no ritual, no part where Omkara is not used. It's so well known. And that is what is, that being the popularity is prasiddhatva. No, how prasiddhi. The prasiddhi is revealed by hasma, etc. expressions. They don't give any specific meanings. Prasiddham hi Omkarasya Anukrititvam. Especially in the Yajnashalas, when the priests give permission, to give permission specifically they say Om, Om. Is it okay to do Om? Specialist permission. That's what Shankaracharya writes here. Now, page number 229 time. Let me read one line. Apicha O Shravaya iti Praisha Purvakam Ashravayanti Pratishhravayanti. Apicha, moreover, he says, the Yajurveda priests, they address the Agnidraha. Agnidraha means who? Brahma. Brahma means who? Atharvaveda priest. And they tell them, they say Om. And then what does it mean Om? When these Yajurveda priests say Om, addressing the Atharvaveda priests, what it means is, come on, Shravaya, may you make these, the Devatas listen to our chanting. Let them listen to our chanting, mantras. Just to say this much, Om, Om. Maybe they must have told like that. Tatha Om iti samani gayanti samagaha. A very simple lesson, so you can easily relax and enjoy. Important lesson I finished as soon as I came. Tatha Om iti samani gayanti samagaha ogum shomiti shastrani shamsanti shastra shamsitaraha. See, Samagaha, people of Samaganam, the Samaveda priests also sing their Sama mantras the way they have to recite, how? Saying Om. Om Shom iti Shastrani. Shastrani here are the Rigveda priests. Now, they also recite. Shastra Shamsitaraha means people who utter Rigveda mantras are known as Shastra Shamsitaraha. And they also utter what? Om. Means all the Vedikas have to bow to Om, have to say Om, Om, Om. Okay, we have a few more lines. Quickly we'll finish when I come back. Okay, only 2 more lines. And this afternoon we'll start the Anuvaka, 9th Anuvaka. Just reading, it will take only 2-3 minutes for me to finish. Then we'll start the 9th Anuvaka. With Bhagavan's grace, I really want to do nice unfoldment of this rest of the Bhashyam second part. And please, when you find time, try to read. I know all of you are equally very engrossed with a lot of other activities, important work situations. Try to find it, so that what I'm thinking, because you made so much of effort to get the books and to you all have spent time, precious time and everything. And any doubts you have here, I can clarify your time. Okay? Doubts. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Is it 29th today date? Yesterday and today people were saying, oh, that is going to happen, this is going to happen, a lot of astrological predictions. Swami used to say this, whatever happens is happening. Today they say that we are only Om, 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 we are saying we are all protected.